Hey there, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Join Brittany as she interviews incredible people whose stories will uplift you and remind you the life you long for is just ahead. Buckle up for an inspirational ride to your best life. Take it away, Britt.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. I am your host, Brittany Wheeler, and I am so grateful to be having you here today, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're listening in your car, doing workouts, doing laundry, walking the dog, whatever it is. So grateful to have you today and really excited for this conversation. Honestly, it took us a minute to just get recording because we could be talking about so many things. So I'm going to introduce her because I know you're going to be so blessed by this conversation. She's a mother, a friend, a daughter, a girlfriend, a leader, an entrepreneur, a dreamer, a podcaster herself, an author, an on-air TV host, and a visionary. Please welcome my friend Christina Dees to the Brittany Wheeler Show.
Brittany, what an introduction. How could I say no to doing this podcast with you?
You're so sweet. You're so sweet.
I mean, any chance we get to talk. Come on. Yeah.
It is the best. Honestly, like having you on the show, I was like, well, this means I have a scheduled allotted amount of time and it's on the calendar. And that's really important because you're a mother and you're a busy woman. And I'm just like, I need to get all this time with you. And so I'm grateful that you said yes. And thank you for plugging your laptop in. At the Brittany Wheeler Show.
I had to jump up.
It's fine. At the Brittany Wheeler Show, we interview the 99, right? Like we're not interviewing the 1%. And this is what the 99% is doing, is like taking care of their kids, plugging in their computer. Like that's what we do.
I know. Just to like get here and sit down this morning, you were like, are you good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm good.
And you wore many hats.
Dog, kid, kid. And don't forget, I got my smoothie. And then last minute, you were like, do you have your favorite mug? So I do. I have my favorite mug.
I'm so pumped. Okay.
So
before we get into that, I want you to share how we met each other. Because so the reason why I do this is when I first started the show, again, like I love the One Percenter podcast. I love it. I add value, I get value, and I love listening. And I also know that there's a lot of people out here that may not ever really be able to relate to those people. And so what I thought is really special when I started bringing guests on the show at the beginning was, okay, well, Brittany knows this person, right? But like, how did you meet? Right? Because I'll listen to all these podcasters and be like, at what point did this person meet this person? Like, how did this cross? And so I just added it to my own show as a way to create a foundation for the audience and prep them to be like, okay, this is how it all started. And it's an invitation into our friendship and into the conversation. So I would love for you to share how we met. I think it's a really sweet story.
Well, I love this because this is why I love you and talking to you, because my podcast, the Hourglass podcast, when I was like, trying to figure out what am I going to name it, the title that came to mind was like The Story Behind, because I interview like entrepreneurs, leaders like you do, artists, just ordinary people who are living extraordinary lives, right? And how did that person get to where they are? So I always want to know, like, oh, okay, like Brittany Wheeler Show, but like, I want to know the story behind Brittany Wheeler. Like, how did Brittany Wheeler get to be the Brittany Wheeler Show? So I love that, like, our minds are working. So how you and I connected, which is such a good story, is I was hosting the Global Leadership Summit, and Thursday and Friday, it's a 2-day event. And on Friday, I did the live panel. And I think Thursday was like everybody kind of meeting and getting comfortable with each other. So like by Friday, everyone was like now feeling confident to go up and say hi. And so at the end of the day, or maybe it was lunchtime, I'm trying to remember at what point, it was like afternoonish. And you came up to me and you were like, so you do this for a living? Like moderate panels? And I'm like, no, I just did that today. And you're like, well, if you're not doing that, that's what you need to do. And I'm going to be your hype girl and make sure that happens. And so I was like, oh, every girl needs a hype girl. And you were just like so easy to talk to and friendly. And you're like, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm going to call you and we're going to talk. We're going to meet. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then we actually did. And then I'm sitting across from you and we're talking and I'm like, it's like I'm talking to me. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And you were like, I'm talking to me. So we kind of like both had that like, oh, you are me and I am you. And really in this world, that is true. Like I am me and you are you and
Mhm.
we are us. So yeah, that's how we met and like the rest is history.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
I love yeah.
Insta friends.
Insta friends. And also Insta friends in a way that like, no BS, right? Like that's who you and I are too, which is like, we can play the game and do the pleasantries of it all, but it is just really my cup of tea when I can meet someone and they give me back what I put out. And so it doesn't happen often, right? So I recognize when those people come into my life. And I knew that when I walked up to you, I was like, I felt the energy from you even throughout the time. And I'm like, I need to go up to her and just tell her how awesome she is. Like, there needs to be a connection. And I still didn't really understand. I didn't know much about you, who you were, but I just felt an energy from you. And then to also experience our, coffee conversation, all of that, I was confirmed, right? In like, okay, I need to know her. I need to hang out with her. And also, I think that no matter who's listening and what you're doing in your life, as you're growing and you're developing or you're reaching goals or you're growing your family or whatever that is, so important to continue to surround yourself with people that are going to that level, that are doing the things you're doing, because it can be lonely and it can be hard to like, stick it out or tough it out or just to take the next step, depending on what exactly you're navigating. So I've been very aware in this season at the end of 2025, like, who am I bringing into my circle that I can genuinely go and call and say, hey, I need this advice, or like, you're going to be community editing my book. And so I don't just do that with everybody, right? You know what I mean? And so I hope that like, people listening, that can be an inspiration to them of like, who are you meeting that is at the level that you are that can be a part of what you're doing in this season?
Yeah, and being intentional about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's one thing I appreciated about you as well is we were trading voice memos back and forth at first. And not many people can handle the voice memos, but I
It's
feel like you really
wild
get a
to me.
sense.
It's wild. I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you not do it? I don't get it.
I love it because it's I don't know, voice texting, there's so many errors and I got to go back and read it and I'm like, "No, I want you to hear the intonation, the inflections in my tone and like I just feel like we got it." And even like if we made plans and I would say, "Hey, something came up," and you were like, "Thank you. Like thank you for being honest and just telling me." And then making the effort to reschedule it because that is lacking. And so I think for you and I, we recognize that in each other and like that's what I've sorry, the dog came over. I was like making sure he wasn't going to throw up on me. You and I recognize that like that's important to
Yeah.
us when choosing who we want in our circle.
Mhm.
And I use this analogy with my kids because I think it's really important. And that I call it the hug. I think I explained it to you where you like hug, right? And you
Mhm.
put your arms out. And whoever fits in this circle, like these are the people that get the most access to me
Yeah.
and they get close to me. And I have built this beautiful universe. And so when you step into my universe, I want you to feel good.
Yeah.
And what that means is when I step into other people's universes, I'm very careful about it. And so I have another circle that's like the second circle. And, those are people that are also important to me, but just don't get the daily close access to me. And then there's the peripheral. And so those are people that I keep at a distance that I'm like, okay, all right. I really, like you, pay attention because if you pay attention and you actually listen, people show you who they are.
Yeah.
They tell you who they are right
Almost
away.
instantly. Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so I'm like, that's okay. Like you be you.
Yeah.
But now I know
Yeah.
who you are and you're going to stay over there.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I have to be ugly or disrespectful to you. It's just is what it is.
Well, and I just had a conversation with someone the other day, and it was a level of like growth. And what I mean by that is, those of you that have listened to the show, you know that I'm really open about my story, right? I talk about, um, daddy issues. I talk about the things in which God has healed me from, and only in which the things God has healed me from, I'm able to then speak on, right? And just because I share those things doesn't mean there's not levels of myself that are even more vulnerable. And so what we talked about the other day was like, vulnerability for a lot of people will be talking about the men that they slept with or the women that they slept with, or, oh, I did this drunken night, or the audience, like, I have found myself in a trap house accidentally drunk. Like, that's vulnerable. To me, that's not vulnerable. That's my message. People are going to hear my mess and it's going to bless somebody. What's vulnerable is that circle you talked about. It's letting you in, right? It's letting you into a space of trust and reciprocity and closeness, right? That proximity. And I think there's more people out there than we know, right? That are like you and I. And there's a lot of people that just need to know that it's okay that that's your vulnerability, right? That your vulnerability is that like closeness. And it's okay that your vulnerability is not the fact that you can comfortably talk about past relationships, experiences, whatever, because we are meant to be healed from those things and meant to help people. You and I believe we're meant to help the person we once were. So thank you for sharing that analogy, because that to me feels real. And I didn't really discover that until honestly we had that conversation. And I was like, well, the men I slept with, that's not vulnerability, which is wild, right? Because there's so many women and men listening to be like, Brittany, are you on crack? Because that is actually very vulnerable. And I'm like, no, because that's my past. I am not that person anymore. And so hopefully this part of the conversation is speaking to somebody that needs to hear it as well.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I think authenticity is,
Mhm.
the theme.
Mhm.
Like you can be authentically you,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's who we all should be.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. All right. I am ready to hear about this mug. I want to know why you chose it and what and how it made its way into your life.
Okay. So this mug is literally my favorite coffee
I
mug.
love it.
It's got a little heart on it. And I have a matching one for my partner, my boyfriend. And this was the first thing we bought ourselves when we moved in together, because he brings me a cup of coffee to bed every morning, or I bring one to him. It just depends. And so I don't know if anything ever happens to this coffee mug, I will, be heartbroken,
Yeah.
pun intended. But yeah, it was from Target. They don't sell it anymore. But we just were at the house and we were like, we have nothing. Uh, let's go. And so we are starting our new life together. And of course, being very intentional about what we bring in.
Mm.
And so this represents our love and our new life. And that's why it's special to me.
And it's so sweet. I love, okay, so
Thanks.
I'm going to talk freely with you because you're in the industry. So one of the things, so I love this segment so much. And I remember over the summer, I have, for those that have listened and watched the show, there's been, iterations of the show and the growth from the ideation all the way until execution and completion. Well, once I got to completion at some levels, I'd level up, right? So one of the things I thought about over the summer was like, gosh, like the Brittany Wheeler show, I'd love to have a talk show, right? I love to have this be visual. I was like, all right, well, how can I steward and use what I have? And I knew that I was stepping into YouTube. And I'm like, okay, I can talk to my guests, but what could I do in this next level of recording that really will bring a visual, just three-dimensional experience that we do get traditionally, right? When we watch talk shows, whether it's been Regis and Kelly or, The View or the Drew Barrymore show or Oprah, right? There's this three-dimension that you are being, invited into. And so this mug came up and I just thought it was the coolest thing because it's so unique to every single person. And it's just, and the reason why I brought it up is because I was like, it never gets old. I've done 4 episodes only with this so far. And I'm just like a little kid, so excited. And then I love how like all of my guests have been just as excited as I am to share, and the sweetness and just like, yeah, it's just really cool. So I'm excited to see, we've got several episodes to get through before we get to this new iteration of recordings. So if you're watching YouTube, you will know that most of the episodes that started on YouTube are not with the coffee mug, but they will soon be more and more, and that's all we're going to have. So
All right. Well, have you talked about your coffee mug yet?
I have not. No. So interestingly enough,
Okay. Let's hear about
I
yours.
can share. Yes. So, um, in the spirit of branding, right? I have multiple things. I've got multiple businesses, and so I really wanted to make sure that, like, when I'm on air, that I'm representing the Brittany Wheeler show, right? Like in that space. And so my best friends, I went to go visit my best friend's parents, who are like my parents in upstate New York. And, when you have that relationship with people, you just chill, you can hang out, do whatever. They are my parents. And so I'm like their daughter, right? And they were like, oh, we've got, my best friend's mom was like, I got this gift card to this paint and sip. We should go. And so we went, and I was like, what am I going to make? Because I operationally driven 100%. Arts and crafts or creative cooking, that's me. Cooking is my creative outlet, but like doing arts and craft, I get so in my head about it. So anyways, I was like, what am I going to make? I was like,
Well, she can plan a heck of a party.
I can. I really can. But so I was like, oh, let me do like, these are as close as I could do the colors of the show. And then in my beautiful, very organic handwriting, I wrote the Brittany Wheeler show out on it. And then it ran a little bit in the kiln, but you can see TBWS as well. And so the principle of this mug is nothing more than just to feel like I'm in brand with the show. And when I'm drinking out of it, because again, it's the same kind of concept of like The View and Live with Regis and Kelly. Like, I'm like, what's in your mug? Because it says Live with Regis and Kelly. This also goes back, for those of you that don't know Regis and Kelly, Google it. It was also Kathy Lee and Regis, but we're aging ourselves. But yeah, I just wanted to be on brand and just to like be drinking out of something Brittany Wheeler until I have real nice branded cups.
Wow. I do like the branding on the shirt, and I can see that
Thank you.
On your next mug.
Thank you.
So.
Yes, it's interesting. I don't always wear the shirt. So you got all the brand today. Usually I wear whatever. Like, I'm just like, I look good. Yeah. My face looks great. But like, I was like, I'm going to wear it today. And when I felt God called me to do these shirts, and a college friend of mine helped me design them. And I worked with her business. And what's really cool, and I know you get this from an entrepreneur's perspective with your businesses, is like when you take the time to do something and put the work in, and then the response from the people is exactly what you wanted it to be. And so I took a lot of care and a lot of time into the type of shirt, the branding. At one point, for women watching, I actually dropped the logo down like 0.5 centimeter because I thought of all of my very well-endowed, gifted women that hate the fact that like the logo comes up to the top of their chest. I literally thought of everything. And then my friend Sarah was like, I was wondering, was this an error? And I was like, no, I was thinking about you, girl. I was thinking about you and what God gave you. And you needed to drop that logo a little bit because as my sister says, I'm president of the Itty Bitty Titty Committee. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was my claim to fame growing up.
Are we?
My dad used to say that to me, by the way.
Wild. Okay.
And I've always been so self-conscious. But if you've ever designed anything in your life, you know how many decisions there are to make. From the font to the color to the placement. And I just learned about this too because we were doing shirts, and I hate how all the shirts, it's like right here. And so that's where all the attention goes, and people are staring like right there. Yep. And so, yeah, I have to say you nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, I really respect meeting another president member, and and I've never met someone else. Usually I have so many talented and beautiful women that have been gifted, and they're just members, but I am the president. So it's nice to meet a president. And honestly, like, I kind of love it now. I've leaned into it because a lot of my friends are like, back problem this, back problem that. I got to wear a bra. And I'm like, I'm just living my best life and I'm good here. So like, I've embraced it, and I'm like, this is me, Demi Lovato style. Like, that's it.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
All right. Speaking of
own it,
childhood. Thank you. I want to go back a little bit. Oh. I want to know, from you going back, and obviously we don't have to go back too much, but growing up in Illinois, being raised, in the middle of the country, I'm excited to learn a little bit about this, but I want to know, how that time as a young girl formed you into this like incredibly kind and humble person. Because I think, from what I can tell, that's something that's been a through line all of your life, regardless of the ebbs and flows and the people that you've you've had involved with you?
Yeah. My growing up, I was always embarrassed to bring people to my house. I grew up very poor, and my dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict and lost his job pretty early on. I want to say maybe right when I started middle school, sixth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, somewhere around there. And so he lost his job and he lost his license for a DUI and then lost his job. So if you don't have a license, you can't drive. And if you can't drive, you can't go to work. And so he sort of just resorted to partying all the time. And he thought partying was more important, being with his friends was more important than his family. And so from that, I learned that I never want that to be my priority in life. I always want to, put my family first. But because he was always gone and he would come home drunk, passed out, and we wouldn't know the person we were going to get when he wakes up, usually a bear. And he did, verbally abuse my mom and threaten her. I also saw a man treat a woman badly, but that doesn't mean he's a bad person. I think as I've learned and gotten older and done my work, I realized like he had a lot, his childhood, everyone's childhood kind of like uh, carries with them and informs them as an adult. And so he never dealt with the trauma and got help. And he's a Vietnam veteran. He was in the war. And does that make his actions, does it excuse his actions? Absolutely not. But in the end, I was able to find forgiveness and see him in a different light and forgive all of his actions. So because of all of that, I had to be the parent to my parents. So my childhood was taking care of my brother and sister. I had to, go to school, get a job, help pay the bills. I would hold family meetings on the weekends to make sure everybody was helping mow the grass and cut the bushes. And, you're going to clean the house because we'd have cleaning day on Saturdays. And then at some point, my mom, she was working at Walmart, which is why I don't support Walmart. I see how they treated their employees, and it's horrible. Like anyone that works in retail. Oh, I think you used to. They force them to work holidays, and then they don't get to be with their family. So I get it. It's rough, but she had to make money, so she did that, and she went to school at night. Before that, she worked at Miss Elaine, so she was a seamstress. She also worked for Levi. Miss Elaine did lingerie, and then she went into Walmart, and then went to school. And so I ended up. Oh, and because of all that, our electricity got turned off and running water, and I was in high school. And in high school, I had to go to take my sister, who was younger. She and I would get up early and drive to my friend's house and use her shower so that we could both have a hot shower and clean ourselves before school because the cold water was not fun. And nobody knew that about me. And then my junior year, my house caught fire and burned down. I came home from school and my house was on fire and we lost everything. And so it was right before Christmas. And so we were living in a hotel room for Christmas, had a tiny Christmas tree, like maybe just a couple gifts. And, as a family, I didn't even have a toothbrush. So that was a very humbling experience because it was like embarrassing. First of all, as someone in high school, like I didn't want anyone to know about that. But the community, rallied and dropped off gifts so that we could have some sort of Christmas. So all of those experiences really shaped who I am as a person. So coming from nothing and really the first person in my family to go to college, to fast forward, now I'm the only female in my line of women to do the work. and heal the generational trauma of the women in our family. And I do that for my daughter so that she doesn't have to.
Mm.
So in a nutshell, yeah.
Well, first off,
Most people, no, I don't think most people have ever heard that story, by the way.
when you were talking, this felt like the first time, and that wasn't lost on me. And not in a way of like you never told this story, but in a way that you trusted me with this story. And so it's not lost on me the significance. And um, another layer that we connect on as well is our upbringing and having to the terminology is emotional incest. And so it basically, that term means when you are then taking on a role emotionally that is not your role. And so, like yourself, I stepped in as a maternal role for my sisters, starting very lightly at the age of 7 when my dad left. And that grew and grew and grew and grew. So, um, I I can relate on a lot of levels. And of course, that your story has so many things that began obviously to define you. There's so many things that kind of came up for me. And I love that you shared also why you stepped into personal growth and healing and finding alignment because it wasn't about you, right? It was about your future self and it was about your children. How do you find yourself now, right? Like speaking of, your boyfriend, your partner, how do you find yourself now experiencing or do you feel like you're experiencing some redemptive healing with the man that he is versus the man that you grew up supposed to be, your provider, your protector, your confidant, right? What a father should be, right? And I recognize also my father was riddled with demons on demons on demons. Like I recently did a family recently did a family org chart with all of the generational traumas that passed down. I could barely see my dad's name. And I say that to the audience to let them understand that like literally like my dad was just a product of what he received generationally down. Does it make what he did right? No, but it allows me to understand. It allows me to have to posture my heart to be like, okay, well, he's broken. So I'd love to know how does that look now with a man like you, who your partner is versus, what you erased?
So, like you said, I had to step into that masculine role very early on. Um, and they say that you subconsciously choose your partner, your husband, um, based on your father. Like subconsciously, you choose someone, and that's I don't know if it's because your nervous system is so used to that. I maybe somebody else can explain it, but you just subconsciously you're drawn to that and you choose that because subconsciously you think that's the person's going to bring you the healing. It was not the case for me, so I'm divorced. Um, and with my new partner, luckily I had done enough work because when I went through divorce, I really started studying relationships. I like did a deep dive and like really wanted to understand um how a good relationship can go bad and like what is a good relationship. And so when I met Dave, I'll give him his name, my partner, my boyfriend, he was so kind. Um, but what I noticed immediately was that he was conscious. And that was like, as I was sitting and really studying relationships, I started to make a list of like, what's important to me. Like, if I could choose, what are my non-negotiables, right? And my number one thing was I want a conscious man because I want a man who can meet me where I am. And I had done so much work to get to where I was. I love this quote by the angry therapist, and he's like, "You didn't come this far to come this far, right?" And so I felt, and I dated myself during this time, and I really got to know myself, and I loved hanging out with myself. I'm like, I'm freaking cool. Like, where's this girl been? And I don't care if I never meet another man in my life. Like, I'm happy. I mean, obviously we all have needs and, that would be sad if I didn't. But I was totally fine if it didn't happen. And so when I met him, he was able to show up in a way that my nervous system wasn't used to. Because most men or masculine energy that I was around was anxious or avoidant. And this man showed up secure. And at first, I was like, I didn't register at first, obviously. I didn't go through and label it. But at first, I'm like, huh, okay. Same way. And he just continued to consistently show up the same way every time. He didn't run away when there was a problem. My baggage didn't scare him off. Kids jump in the call, didn't scare him off. He wasn't anxious and he wasn't, worried about me because as someone who works in TV, I have a big personality and that could be intimidating for some people. No, didn't care. Like the first time we actually hung out was at a conference. He met me at one of my conferences. This is not the first time, but our true connection. And I was like, well, I gotta go. I'm presenting my poster and I gotta go mingle and socialize. And he's like, that's cool. And he just dropped off a drink for me and disappeared. And I'm like, where'd he go? I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. He's on his own. And then at the end, I'm looking around. I'm like, well, I haven't seen him. He hasn't checked on me. Can't see him across the room. And I find him making cannolis with the cannoli guy. And I was just like, I love this. He wasn't worried. He didn't care. And so, I don't know. I say all of that to say that, it was really hard for me in the beginning to trust what was being presented to me, not because of him, but because of my past.
Your framework.
And the men who have let me down. And so I just sort of kept watching the behavior, observing the behavior. And mind you, he came in, he's a gentleman. And chivalry is not dead, ladies. And I think what I had to learn, because I was very, again, wounded. I was rigid. I'm like, I don't need a man to pay for anything. I don't need a man to open the door. I got my chair. I can, do all these things myself. And it's funny. And I think back at me now and I kind of laugh at my old self. But the truth is, I think a lot of us out there are like that, where we don't want a man to open the door. I got that. And I think what I had to learn and what's beautiful to me now is I had to learn to receive. And I got that message of he wanted to pay for dinner. He wanted to open the door for me. All of these things, pull my chair out at dinner, things like that. It's at first I was like, I can do it myself. No, I'll pay for it. I don't want anything from anyone. And then I realized I was rejecting him and his love. That's who he is. And if I don't allow him to be who he is, that's like saying, you're not good enough for me. And I said, and I had this split second moment of what would it feel like to receive? That would feel good. Okay. And each time, I would be and so I let him, and the great thing is he's done his work too. So I can say how I'm feeling without him freaking out. And so I'm saying, I don't want you to pay for me and this is why. And he said, well, I want to. Would you allow me to do that for you? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to let you do this. This doesn't feel good. I don't like it. And he's like, okay, all right. Are you sure? And I'm like, yes, I'm sure I'm going to receive. And I'd be like, oh, that didn't feel good. Yeah. But then really when that wore off, I was like, it actually felt good. And then the more I'm allowing him to be himself, to be this gentleman, to consistently show up, I'm like, feels really good. It feels really good as a woman to know that I am protected, I am provided for, and I'm safe. And, he didn't want it. It wasn't doing it because he wanted something from me. That's who he is. He's genuine. And I think we miss a lot of opportunities around us. Actually, I just had this conversation at the Whalers concert on Sunday. I was in the green room and there was a guy sitting there, and I came in to get my stuff and I'm polite. Hello, hello. And turns out he's the lead singer of the band. It's like, oh, yes, I should do my research. um, and so we were just talking, and we were literally just having a conversation, like a human connection with like a man not wanting something from me, or vice versa. It was like, and then I learned he had done his work, and he was a therapist. So I'm like, oh, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But and we talked about that, how like women are so wounded. A lot of us are, that it's hard to trust and be like, he probably wants something from me. Oh, or he's talking to me because he wants to get in my pants, or whatever it is. And I have to say, like, it feels really good to receive and then return that compliment to men. To be able to say, even if a man were to ask me for my number, because that also happened, and I'm like, no, you cannot have my number. And I don't have to be rude. I don't have to be a B word. I'd say, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm flattered. And he's like, oh, well, you can't blame me. I was like, no, I mean, shoot your shot. I get it.
Yeah.
But like, not happening. And he's like, okay, darn. And I feel like I take these opportunities to teach men. Some of them come out right out the gate like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Can I get your number? And you're like, maybe don't come out the gate with it. Could work on it. Your approach is a little rough around the edges.
Let's talk this through. Because this didn't work.
I feel like they need some coaching. Some of them,
They need some coaching. Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't have to be mean and rude and offended all the time.
Correct.
And I'm like, and then they're actually really grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
They're just like, oh, thanks. I'm going to do that next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
it's going to work out for you, buddy.
And I think that and I love that we're talking about this, because there'll be stuff I want to share with you offline. But for right now, the first thing that comes to mind is I find myself in situations where every single woman needs to be listening to this. As a woman, we have more authority than we think. And if somebody has told you that men are this or men are that, like, that is the brokenness of man. That is not at all how God designed it. And so what I know to be true is that women have a responsibility as well, right? To understand our own power within and our own authority. And just because men have hurt us doesn't mean that it's the right thing to go back and hurt men. And I find myself in situations all the time where it's not that exact shade of a number, right? But for example, like, this is such a weird example. Just the other day, yesterday, these 3 missionary guys were walking the neighborhood, right? And of course, I've guarded my heart. People that listen, they know that like not all Christians are created equal. I don't let anybody pour into me. But I saw how young these guys were. These guys were like 18, maybe, young, very like, I had an opportunity to allow them to speak, to allow them to share, and then also to speak what is true to me and say, hey, I know Jesus Christ. He's my Lord and Savior. All these things without dismantling them, right? Without assuming that these guys were coming to, push something on me or whatever the case may be. I felt a responsibility because even though, and I think whoever's listening to this, even though the message was about like their church, from a male's perspective, just like women, rejection is rejection, right? And we then take that and internalize it as the blanket statement of rejection. And that's my story, right? Is they don't choose me. Dad walks away, right? And so I just feel like we have a greater responsibility as women to like you said, not dismantle the man, not beat the man to death, not be like, oh, because what you're gonna do is that one moment that you had with that guy of being like, hey, like, appreciate you shooting your shot. Like, that's not how I receive it. And just maybe try some different, or however you say it is gonna be the gateway to maybe a better experience, and then the better experience, and the better experience. So I think as just humans, as people, we have an opportunity to show up and leave someone better than we found them. Now, can we do that because we're healed? Absolutely. And you were talking about masculinity, and what's interesting is that um I didn't realize until recently, well, let me make this one statement and my brain is spinning. The first statement was God has had to do a ton of work into allowing me to see good men and allowing me to receive chivalry, because like you, I
Mhm.
rejected it, right? Because like you, I didn't know how to receive it, and didn't and also it was safer for Brittany to do it, right? For me to worry about myself, I'm also unpacking disappointment, right? Like all these things, right, that
Mhm.
come from um taking care of your siblings, cooking for the family, right? Like um all of that. And so I've been on that journey for probably about 3 years now, and finally at a place where those last few layers are coming in, right? What you were talking about with Dave, I'm feeling that myself of like, oh, so this is what normal should be, right? This is what the standard should be. And this reframing of my mind and my framework of like, oh, this is a great man. But my bar was so low. And what I realized, and I'd love to know if you had anybody in your life like this. So my papa was the guy. Like he was the one that I look back as the male role model in my life. Like it wasn't a question if I needed something, I asked. You came. I grew up with my grandparents, my sisters and I, and so he stepped in as a father figure as well as a grandfather and a spiritual leader. And so it was interesting because just a couple weeks ago I had this thought of like, I totally kind of forgot because of my own journey, right? Of sleeping around and, finding love in all the wrong places or all the wrong beds, whichever you want to say, that I forgot because I was jaded in what I actually witnessed as a child. And what I witnessed as a child is I forgot that my papa would drop us off at the front door with my grandmother. We never walked. Like we literally, like, the 3 grandchildren, there was more, but the 3 that lived with him, 3 granddaughters and his wife, always got dropped off at the front door anywhere we went. And it wasn't a matter of like, that was just normal. And so I've been running back in my mind the things that papa did and how he again took care of my grandmother without taking out of her light. My grandmother was a boss, and like she was an incredible leader and a nurturer and a teacher and just gave the best hugs. Never did I see my grandfather dim her light. He just encouraged it. And so I want to know, is there or was there a male role model, paternal figure like that outside of your dad?
No,
Okay.
I didn't have any. It was just me, you know? I was the only person I could rely on. And I think that realization came to me in my 40s, where I was like, man, I'm taking care of everybody around me. So that caretaker role I carried with me. I just assumed the role, right? Of like, that's what I do best. I take care of everybody
Yeah.
and make sure everybody's needs are met. And I come last. And then I just realized one day that at the end of the day, who's taking care of me? Just me. And then I realized, well, there's nobody coming to save you. Like, there's no guy coming on the white horse. The Prince Charming's not going to roll in.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's really when I started to decide to put myself first. And I love the analogy of like putting your oxygen mask on first so that you can take care of everybody else around you. And I think as women, we're just taught to give, sort of the martyrdom syndrome of make sure everybody else's needs are met first.
Yeah.
And then come mine.
Yeah.
And that maybe translates into your choosing of men, right? Because you were, I'm sure, just meeting needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting. I also, and I want to say this, we'll chat about it. And I have a couple questions that I think will help some women, but, it was just shared with me the other day because I find it fascinating how we have kind of landed in this space with women and men. And I do believe that my work is meant to be with the single women. And hopefully my future partner will come alongside me and it will be the male's perspective as well, because I do believe you are meant to help the person you once were. My mess is going to be my message. All the cliches, I'm fine with it because that's people are going to be changed by it. And so she said something, a friend of mine said something, honestly, just yesterday. And, a lot of people listening to the show don't know Jesus, don't know God, and that's cool, but they love that I do. And so I just share from a perspective of like understanding. And so, we had Adam and Eve at the beginning in all the details that God designed it. And when we fell, which means that like Eve ate the apple, what we got as a result of that is Adam became passive and Eve became controlling. And when she said that, I was like, well, that describes this really unhealthy movement that we have, right? Where we have passive men that are not taking initiative, that are not being empowered. And we have women who are controlling the situation as a result of the fact that the men are being passive. But then the passivity of the men is creating controlling women. The controlling women is actually deterring men. It is a horrible cycle, right? And so when she told me that yesterday, I was like, one sentence. That's literally so, and you can break it down psychologically, right? You could take that one statement that has a lot of spiritual, biblical context, and you could break that down into any doctoral dissertation you want to around that is literally what's happening. I'm watching women that I love and know controlling outcomes in their life as a result of their husbands, partners, spouses having passive outlooks, right? And again, none of this is to say because they're doing it on purpose, right? Or that they're bad people. It's the result of unhealedness. It's the result of also not being empowered to be who you deserve to be, the man you deserve to be, the woman you were called to be. And what I've been finding with myself, and I feel like hopefully the same for you, and I love to know your thoughts on this, but what I've been finding is God has been putting godly men in my life and not men that believe in Jesus, because that's not it. It's men, I mean, that's it, but like that's not only it. But it's men that are like what Dave is, right? That are not dimming lights. They're empowering women. They're seeing women. They're they're creating space, right? And so what I'm seeing is because I'm looking for it now and because I've leveled up, that's what I'm surrounding myself with. You're smiling. So go. I want to hear.
Yeah, because that's what happened to me. And so I'm like, oh, I know where you
Yeah.
are. Um, so before I met Dave, right before, um, I was in another relationship and I, I went and did a retreat and I met some beautiful men. And these, for the first time in my life, they were men who held space for me as a sister. They didn't want anything from me. They weren't trying to hit on me. They were just like, "Oh my gosh, like, you are a queen.
Mm.
Like, you are amazing." And they saw me for me, and they're like, "Just want you to know that." And these guys are still really dear friends, and they know I always remind them how important they are to me. I was just talking to one yesterday. We might actually do some work together because he went off to do some really deep work, and he wants to start working with men. And then I obviously want to work with women, and I'm writing this new book, as you're aware, sort of this same thematic topic of helping women just remember the crown they were born with, and how to come back to that. But so I met these guys, right, and they just spoke to me in a way that I've never been spoken to. It's almost like I was being sent these men And it was like they were coming in drones, like the knights, like the queen and her knights. And they were like surrounding me and protecting me. And, guys that I had known that, like, again, they don't want anything from me. And as a woman, and I know you can relate, it's like most men want something from you. Like platonic what? No, it is possible. And these men really embody true masculinity.
Yeah.
Like they are true protectors. And so, yeah, I met them. They came into my life and really reminded me of who I am. And needless to say, I realized, I ended that relationship. And then, because I was like, man, you didn't come this far to come this far.
Correct.
Because he checked almost all the boxes. There was just one. And I heard this podcast, and this girl was saying, ladies, if you're listening, you can have a man that checks all the boxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not asking too much. You don't need to settle. You can have it all.
Yeah.
And I thought, you're damn right. Sorry, you're right.
Oh. That deserved a damn. That deserved a damn, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, if I'm a gambling woman, I'm going to go all in on myself because I believed that this man existed for me.
Yeah.
I believed that he was out there. I believed that real love is possible. But there's a difference I learned between believing it and knowing it.
Mm.
And it was like, I know. I had never been so sure. I know it.
Mm.
I know it in my heart and my soul. And so then Dave appeared. And we had met before, but he just sort of resurfaced. And so it was like, that's weird. Because when we first met the first time, he declared he was going to marry me one day. And I was like,
that's cute. Shoot
Yeah.
your shot, buddy. Okay.
yeah. I was like, okay. But then I was like, what if that actually happened? Like, what if that actually worked out? Could. Never know. And, he hasn't married me yet, but I did catch the bouquet last weekend.
That's it. That's a start.
You know,
Okay, so
the universe has spoken.
I love how you like kind of set me up for you. I set you up. You just set me up. Don't tell us that we're in the industry. It's fine. And I think what I would love to know, because a lot of people here check the boxes and they immediately are triggered, either because they're a man listening being like, oh gosh, here we go. Another woman that wants to know I make this amount of money and I drive this car. I'd love for you to give us
wasn't the box.
I'd love for you to give us a couple of minutes of like, not the exact boxes, but what was that journey for you creating that list? And what was the theme? What was some of the context of those boxes that you were looking for now and Dave?
Yeah, I think like I had to get really real with myself. Like I didn't want to date around, right? And I knew deep down my guy wasn't here in Wilmington. I was just like, he's not. I know he's not here. And so it's sort of like, you can say like calling him in, but I'm like started to think about like, what does he look like? What about him do I find attractive? Some of those things. But then it's like beyond the superficial, if you will. And spoiler alert, he looks nothing like I thought. And that was sort of another block I had to get past, because I think as women, we're always like, oh, he's going to be like, whatever it is.
Right.
Perfect. Yeah. Spoiler alert again. It is, you got to get out of that, rigidity of like, it's got to be this or nothing, or like, this is him. Because love doesn't have a face, love doesn't have, a description. It's just, it shows up in the most mysterious ways sometime. And, you're going to be blindsided of like, wow. And it's so beautiful. So yeah, you got to be careful. Don't be quick to judge. But so I guess I got really intentional about what is it that I really want. I have kids. Um, and so I'm like, I think having someone with kids already, having had that experience is important to me
Yeah.
because they'll understand. It's not a requirement, but it's pretty high up on the list of like somebody that like like number one was conscious. I'm just gonna say like that was the number one thing for me. And if you didn't check that box, like you weren't getting in. That was sort of just like baseline. Um, somebody that had done their work, or at least could have that conversation. Um, what was the other one? This one will be really funny. Um, this one was pretty high up on the list. Um, and I've got my daughter home from school today, so you have to read between the lines on this one. But um, I needed compatibility in the bedroom, and with that, it was um, it sounds funny, but I needed some personal attention, like
Yeah.
that had to be
Well,
important, or that had to be on the
I think
list.
that comes because I know a little bit of your history. I think that comes with the fact that you were not prioritized as a person, right? As a wife, as a mother. And so that was something that you recognized the first time. I'm not doing that again. I deserve to be prioritized. And that translated into all of those things, including into the bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so those were pretty high things. I mean, and if you think about it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's pretty high on the list.
Yeah.
Um, and now like it's interesting because even my view of sex has changed. Um, it's a different level than I've ever experienced. I think sometimes we can get lost in the monotony. Sometimes we can get lost in the lust. Um, the infatuation, you know, but to maintain that excitement and that attraction is something that I've never experienced. And having it now, it's something that like I highly value and never knew
Yeah.
it could be like this. Like it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So so I guess, I can't tell somebody like these should be yours. I think you have to sit with yourself and really do the work. And obviously your past experiences are going to influence,
Yeah.
what your list looks like. But all I can say is like, just get really detailed and really real with yourself of like, what are you willing to accept and not accept? What are your negotiables and your non-negotiables? And for me, I had a lot of non-negotiables. And you know, also, and then comes down like the little things, of like personal hygiene and
Yeah.
I obviously take good care of themselves and work out and eat healthy. Like those are things that are important to me. And so, clearly if they aren't important to you, this isn't going to work out.
Right.
So having that really just helped me in the beginning because I think I told you it's either a hell yes or an F no
Yeah.
for me. Like, I'm not going to waste my time. And I could probably tell in the first 5 minutes whether it was going to go anywhere or not. So if by the end of that and they asked for my number, it'd be like, nah, because I'm not going to waste your time, nor am I going to let you waste mine.
Right.
And it's not to be offended. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm trying to be real.
Right.
And so what I did was like become apologetically me,
Yeah.
authentically me. And if you don't like it, there's the door. I don't care.
Well, and it's interesting. Oh my gosh. So many things.
I know. I know.
I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So the thing that's so wild, and I'll have to pull out. I made a list, I think, when I was still living on Castle Street. And, again, I've gone through that I went through the trivial stuff, right? Yes, I went through a list like that. And that is incorrect, y'all. Like, if you're making a list based on exactly what he looks like and the car that he drives, the money he makes, I'm going to be honest with you, you're going to get exactly what you what you asked for. And that is, I think, the narrative right now. And what people are struggling with is that what women are asking for, they're getting, right? And then they're like, oh, but no, I don't want those things. And so for me, the list got deeper of like, what is the value points, right? And the more in my relationship with God, those also came into play, right? But like, what are the values? And that list stems from those value things, right? Not the trivial stuff, not the facade, this was a checklist of the soul. Oof.
Yeah.
Like it was a
Yeah.
soul checklist, right? Not a skin checklist, not a human form checklist, a soul checklist, right? Because at the end of the day, that is what you're seeing moves Dave to do the things he does, to be the man he is, to be the father he is. Not the fact that he, is 6 feet whatever and, goes to the gym. That's not what honestly gets him there, right? It's his soul. And so I do think that from that checklist, like whoever is listening, like it cannot be about the things that don't really matter at the end of the day when you're in it with someone, and also be okay with the list. And what sparked me towards the end, I had a friend recently, we had a conversation around, and I'm just going to be very bold about this. Um, I I was a hoe. People know that. I slept around, not because I was doing it for, poops and giggles and I liked to do it. It's because I thought that's how I was going to find the love of my life. And I believe that men experience the same kind of trauma and emotional context in pornography. And
Mm.
I knew coming into this place, like your girl, Brittany, has done the work, right? I partnered with God 3 years ago. I stopped dating. I went celibate. Like there was no need for me to go out. He had to work on my daddy issue. There was so much that we have navigated together. And I've grown. I've done the work in that category. And so for me, um, pornography is the equivalent of hoeing around. If I'm just being very honest, that's just my opinion, that like pornography for what I experienced with a man, and I'm talking about my partner, I'm not talking about other people, like that's a whole other conversation. But like for me, pornography was the male version of me going out and finding love in all the wrong beds. And so I knew going into this that like that I was going to have a man, regardless of whether he has experienced pornography or not, he would have grown from it. And he would realize that it's not going to serve him. He doesn't need it for whatever reason, right? Like that was already going to be done. And I had a conversation recently with a friend who challenged me on, well, what about once a month? What about once a year? And I kept saying, no, no, no. And I say this story to say that based on what you were sharing of like, is it a hell no? Right? Or a hell yes, right? Because the reality is, if you compromise on just a smidge of what your heart is saying, what else are you going to compromise on? And I had to get real with myself and say that, like, does this matter enough to me and to my value system that I'm willing to go, okay, God, then I guess there's nobody. Right. Like truthfully, like, am I willing to just hands up? Like you said, am I willing to be like, okay, well, then I guess it's nothing. And I think the reality, Christina, is most women are not willing because they doubt that there actually is someone for them in alignment with the things that they desire. Because we all got different things. Right. And so I think that really is what I wanted to pull out was like women, no pun intended, women. That was funny. I haven't said a joke like that in a long time. That just really hit.
It took me a split second. I got it.
Oh my God. But like, I think that's the reality I want to ask women listening is if you make that list on your value system based on the things that matter to you, are you willing at the bottom to write no matter what and actually walk that out and give your hands up and say, I will wait until. Because I'll tell you that like my love story is going to be a God story, so much so a God story. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore that like this wasn't a coincidence, that watching all the parts and pieces. And so I just encourage, and I want to ask women out there, like, are you willing to give your hands up and let whatever you call God to do work and not control it? Because your story is an example of hands up, because he came out of nowhere. There was you were not dating, you were not looking, you were not even in the same time zone that you currently live in. And because of the list and the non-negotiables and the hands up and the hell no's, your yes was yes, your no was no, Dave entered your life.
Yeah, and we do have that love story that you're talking about. It is, there's no doubt. We both say, like, we were meant to meet each other, for sure. Our paths were meant to cross.
Yeah.
And I had this voice speak to me back when I was too scared. It's like I believed something was out there, but I was too afraid to actually do it, because what if not? Oh my gosh. Right. And I stayed small. I played small. And it was like, I lost my train of thought, but, it happened.
Yeah.
I heard the voice say, like, jump now or you're going to miss your timeline. And now, having known that, like, we realize I wouldn't have been at the place at the same time that he was that day, and he wasn't supposed to be there either. So we both happened to be there. And then, had we not each done our work, how would we be able to long distance date for 2 years, coast to coast? She's from California, I'm in North Carolina. Like, that was a lot, And so I had to be, what is it? Secure attachment.
Yeah.
Both the secure attachment to be like, go do you, I'm going to do me, we'll come back together. And to do that and break away, really, it just created the bond for ourselves. I want to circle back to, before I lose the thought of, porn and hoeing, because I want to disagree with that. I don't think watching porn is the equivalent of hoeing. What I think it is, one is and we'll talk about the hoeing first, right? That is like connection.
Mm-hmm.
You just, you or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
craving connection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's something that stems from your past, right? One of your traumas is like, what in you needs that to feel whole again? And with the pornography, I think that is just like it's just easy, right? You don't have to try. You don't have to deal with people. You can do it behind closed doors. So to me, it's a sign of weakness. And a real masculine man isn't weak and doesn't need that to feel better about himself. And I do think there is a huge problem with porn. And, it is easily accessible.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Yeah. And we live in a sexualized culture too. And so, again, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole with it, but at the end of the day, we are all seeking human connection, and we all want to feel seen and heard and, feel important to someone.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's all about. And you're seeking love and affection in all the wrong places, and then you were still left feeling empty. Mm-hmm. So you were seeking something, validation or whatever that was in the moment that you got a little piece of.
Yeah.
And we can go down the rabbit hole of dopamine receptors, right? And that your old brain and your old neurons and nervous system, that's what it was used to. And so you'd get it and you're like, I feel good. And then that would wear off. Yeah. And you're like, but then I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad that you did the work and still doing the work, and that you are leading from your soul and being unapologetically Brittany Wheeler. And you are calling in that man, right? Because he's out there, he exists right now, and he's looking for you, waiting for you. Yeah. And you're right. As soon as you meet, it's going to be like,
well, and
fireworks.
And here's the thing, and I just want to thank you for saying that. Also, thank you for going in deeper on the porn thing too, because it can be so overwhelming, right? To navigate all of that. And what came to mind when you were saying that was like porn and sex are the result of, not the thing, right? So to me, my work is not in, and again, everyone has their place in this. I believe everyone is called to be a part of doing good and to leaving the world better and to creating wholeness and alignment. My work is not in porn itself, right? My work is not in sex itself. My work is in, and is going to be, helping women, right? That's the root cause, right? You and I are examples of when we get to the root and we heal and we do the work, the end result is irrelevant, right? Like those things are irrelevant. And I feel the same for men. If we, just like you and I are working with women and are speaking to women through our story and giving them permission to be okay and move forward, there's men doing the same thing, right? And I think I think for me, my focus has been less on the like seriousness of it, like, and not saying it's not serious, and more of the like the heart, the person, right? Because at I just think everybody has their role here. But what I recognize for you and I is we're getting to the root of it. We're getting to, when you call up a woman to be who she's meant to be, she's not going to belittle men. And when she's not belittling men, she's not turning men away. When men feel rejected or men feel emasculated, they're going to turn to something else, right? Vice versa, right? If we can empower men and encourage men to be who they are, then they will make women feel loved and seen and heard, and they won't feel rejected and go turn and control, or like we're getting to the root of it, right? And so, yeah, that's just what came to me. I'm like, Christina and Brittany doing some really good work here.
Yeah, that's exactly the book that I'm working on. Sure, I mean, your book's going to be just as juicy and good, but yeah, I feel called to help women, return back to the true divine feminine, which is the soft, the creative, the love, and not live in this hyper vigilant, shielded, like we used to walk around. I call it like a shield over my heart. Like, you're not getting in here. You're not going to hurt me.
No.
I'm not letting anybody in.
No.
I'm going to take care of me. And that didn't get me anywhere.
No.
I mean, could I have probably, enjoyed hanging out by myself a little bit more, and doing my own thing? Of course. But slowly I realized, well, I'd open it up a little bit and be like, oh, close it again.
Yeah.
And the more I worked to try to like open up that shield, I was like, this actually feels good. Like, this is how I want to feel. So really, I just want to ask, your listeners and people watching, like, how do you want to feel? What feels good to you? And sit with that question. And then imagine, okay, I just want to feel happy and loved and important. And if you felt that, how would that feel? How would you carry yourself? How would you walk through your day? And going through my transition, I've had a lot of people come up to me and they're like, you're glowing. Like, what are you on? What do you take? Like, I want some of that. And I'm like, can't get you any of it. And so it's, I feel this calling to like share with other women. It can be beautiful. It can be scary. I get it. It can be a really, really scary thing to take the shield off, to allow someone in, to do the work, to be vulnerable with yourself and others. I get it. I've walked the path. And what I always say is like, I can't walk your path for you, but I can light the light and get you started. And your journey is your journey to walk, as is mine. But I'm here for you, and I'll hold your hand and I'll support you along the way and whatever you need. But only you can walk that path. So decide what you want, how you want it to look, how you want to feel, and it will come.
I love that. I want to leave with one question, because I just feel like I'm always especially with women and men that come on the show that really have a testimony that I know that a lot of people are experiencing the beginning stages of that, right? And so for you, I would love to know if you were sitting across from me, but maybe not healed me, maybe yearning to be me, still in the old habits, the old patterns, what would be one thing that you would tell me that would encourage me or could encourage me or guide me to just take the first step?
So I get asked this a lot. I get approached a lot, and women want to work with me. They're like, I see what you did, and I want to leave my husband, or I'm unhappy and I need help, or I want to get started on the same path. And I always have the same recommendation, and that is a book. It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And you'll see the cover. It's got a picture of a horse on it. Read that book. Start there.
Okay.
And when you finish that book, then you come back.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to jump into 2 lifestyle questions to wrap up. Because we got honestly, I could literally do another hour and a half with you, but we got hats, we got
I could too, but my light just died. I drank way too much smoothie and
you're
coffee.
Kegeling. I get it. Yeah, we got there's a lot. I'm almost Kegeling myself because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's coffee. Okay, so
it's important to do those Kegels.
Important to Kegel. Okay, so what is your favorite local small business in Wilmington that you frequent often that you want to shout out on the show?
Oh, this is a really good question.
It's not easy because you frequent a lot of them. So
I know. I work for Fox Wilmington, and a lot of these are my clients. But the one thing I will say is you're always going to get an honest answer from me. I'm never going to sugarcoat. So are we talking? So then here's the thing. It's are we talking food? Are we talking shopping?
You can pick whatever you feel called to share today. I leave it broad because I originally, just to give you some backstory, I originally was doing coffee shops and restaurants. And then I was finding that there was a mixed bag, but also that some people didn't drink coffee and some people weren't eating out. So I was let me make this up to the guest of what small business they frequent.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is good.
You could pick a couple.
Because I know I'm going to have to be okay, if you want this, you go here. Well, my number one absolute favorite restaurant in town, and I have a lot of friends that are chefs, so nobody take offense to this. It's just I freaking love this place. It's 310 downtown Wilmington on 4th Street. Oh my gosh. You know what I love about them is they have really good cocktails. And so I know you don't drink, but as someone who drinks, I want to have a really good cocktail when I go out. I just do.
But they also have a really good mocktail list, equally.
I was about to tell you that they also have a bomb mocktail list. And I appreciate that too, because I don't always want to drink, but then I can feel like I'm having a drink.
Absolutely.
And they're healthy. It's not full of sugar.
Right.
So, and their desserts are made in-house. The menu is always changing. It's a husband and wife team. I mean, it's incredible. So splurge, date night, special occasion. Every time I go in there, I talk to Jen. She's one of the owners, and I'm like, please stop posting on social media because I got to come in here every time you post a new dish or a new drink or a dessert.
You're the person, I'm your market. You're killing me here. You're killing me.
God, you're the problem. So anyway, it's that good. And there's so many more that I could say as well. If I'm also the Fox Foodie, and I'm starting the Fox Foodie thing. I can't go into detail, but it's if you want this, you go there. If you want that, you go there. I can tell you burger, sushi, date night, whatever. And then shopping. So there's not a ton of good shopping in Wilmington, but I just have done a couple segments with Bazaar.
Okay.
Wilmington. Have you heard of this place?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I hadn't heard of it until I had to go there. It's down by the university on College. And it's just local. It's a bunch of little local vendors.
Yeah.
So I'm a sucker for local handmade, cute stuff. So everything from home goods stuff, house good, hostess gifts. They even have jewelry in there. I mean, don't go in there because you're going to buy something, but do go in there because every time I'm in there to do a segment, it's like, because it takes them a while to set up when I
So
when I
you're
show up to film, and so
browsing
I'm
while
like,
they're setting up.
don't mind me, and then I'm like, oh, I want that, and I want that, and in my mind, I'm like, kind of, like, okay, I want all these things, but I can't shop in the moment. I'm just window shopping, and then I finish and I leave, and I'm like, I forgot I was gonna get the things I wanted. So it's probably good that I didn't, but they have so many cute things like clothing and purses and, even food and,
I love that.
home decor for the wall, photography. So I don't know. I would say Bazaar. I haven't found, there's not a ton of good shopping in Wilmington for me anyway. Um, so I'm trying to think if there's any like boutiques or things like that.
I like our thrifting. When I think about boutiques, I think about our thrifting. Our like Ferry Circle, you can consign there, the Ivy Cottage. I think I've not experienced the kind of thrifting that we have in the greater, Wilmington area, not just Wilmington, but like Hampstead. Like it's up and down the seacoast. And that's when I think of
Oh,
clothing and small business, I think of that because you're right. The clothing boutiques, not so much. The knickknacks, the cute, like, oh, I want to get a trinket. We got a bunch of those. But the clothing, I think of thrifting a lot.
yeah. Clothes Mentor, even the Goodwill, Salvation
Yeah,
Army. I mean, I've found some gems.
I have as well.
I still have a, this is sound crazy to some people, but it's a bunny fur jacket, and I found it in college. And so it's a fur coat made from bunny fur, and I just cannot get rid of it.
Well, also, like, you got it thrifted, so it was 1/17 of the cost. Get out of here.
It was like $10 or
can't.
something crazy. It was back in college.
I love that.
Yeah, I love thrifting, and I feel like we need another thrift store.
We do.
So my friend's opening one in Carolina Beach,
Ew,
actually.
cool.
And so I think there's hope
I love
for
that.
like a really, I want a curated. I always said
Mhm.
my business idea would be one of my business ideas, which I'm not going to do. So if you're listening, this one's for you. It's free. Um, a carefully curated clothing consignment. That's a lot of C's. Carefully curated clothing consignment. And the other half would be like a plant store.
Oh,
So
literally.
I know. Take
Get
my
outta
money.
here.
Take my money.
Get out of here. I can't. Christina,
Yeah.
you're killing me. That's so good.
Yeah. If you really wanted to like add to it and you want to be extra, you could put like jewelry making in the back.
Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on multiple revenue streams. You know that's how I roll. I'm like, how can you take one thing and make multiple things out of it? Like one's always working for the other.
That's why we can't hang out.
why
When we
we
hang
can't hang
out,
out.
we're like, oh, we can do this.
17 things. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know you shared, I'm going to put in the show notes, the book that you just shared. Is there another book that you've read multiple times that you think the listener should, read as well?
Okay. So I like a lot of Joe Dispenza because I'm really into meditation. And he really breaks it down, the brain and
Yeah.
neuroscience. So, I'm a nerd. And if if you like nerding out, I love that. Cause once I learned how the brain works, and neuroplasticity and neurons and epigenetics and all these things, it's like, oh, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
So I do like that. I'm reading a book right now that I think every woman should read. It's called Playing Big by Tara Mohr, Mohr. And it's about how, beautiful, smart, creative, brave, talented women don't play big enough. They play too small because they're too afraid. And so it's really good. I'm on chapter 6.
So good. So good. I'll put that in the show
So
notes.
good. So I would recommend that.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so share with us, where can people find you to reach out, ask questions, social media handles, and like I said, I'll put all of that in the show notes and it's linked so people can find you there.
Sure. My website, ChristinaMathina.com. It's got the book link there. Workshops, if you want to hire me for speaking events, workshops. Social, pretty easy. I just use the Chrissy on the Coast, Chrissy _on _the _coast. Yeah. It's Chrissy, CHRISSE.
Perfect.
And Christina Mathena on Facebook.
Love it. Thank you literally so much for coming on. And I just want to let the audience know that like, this was a gem. No, this is a diamond conversation. I feel it. I felt while we were talking just pops of women being blessed throughout the episode. And what's wild is like, I feel like I've unlocked a layer of us that we need to go deeper in. And not only connection, but also like collaboration together into this work. And so thank you for being on the show. And I really hope you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, thank you for inviting me and giving me space to share my wisdom with your viewers and your listeners. And yes, retreats maybe on the horizon, women's retreats. So if you're interested in going deeper, you want to know how to get started on this journey, you got 2 awesome girls right here willing to help you out. So thank you for what you do, Brittany.
Thank you, my friend. You guys follow Christina wherever whatever social medias you're on. Take a look at what she's doing. Grab her book. Continue to keep an eye out for the next book. Follow us on all social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And as always, do good things. Make me proud. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Oh, don't forget, share this episode if you loved it. That's the one compliment and gift you can give us. Share this episode with a friend.
Share. I didn't say that. This is why she's here. Share. Bye, everybody.
Follow, share, like. Bye.